Hey, well, as far as you people are concerned, my PM sign-in, like this. If you run out of them, just keep them all together. 1, 2, I think 5. Just your name and your agency, and I'll do it over here. Oop, or not.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks.
I'll make sure you sign it. Not my job to screw people's lives up. I do, but it's not my job. Alrighty, so. Mostly, isn't that? You hurt the ones you love. That's true. So, last settlement, we want replacement cost. But that means what you had is what you got. And you might not be able to rebuild with that. And then there's, if it ain't broke, we don't fix it. Now, the HO 91 loss settlement provision just starts in with stuff. The HO 2000 and 2011 starts off with an overall, widespread destruction screws people's lives up and we don't really care. Well, it doesn't really say that, but it's not our responsibility. We didn't create it as the insurance industry. So, but we pay, and we have an ordinance of law exclusion under the HO 91, HO 2000, and 2011. And the HO 91, the ordinance of law exclusion in the policy is different than what's on the amendatory endorsement, because the amendatory endorsement actually gives you some ordinance of law coverage, as long as your amendatory endorsement is at least 1999, because the coverage didn't start until about then. Or actually, it might be 94 or older, and I don't have a 94 one. The HO 91 means your addition date on the policy is April of 1991. And if you read that policy, there is no ordinance of law coverage in it. It is by endorsement, and it's added to the state amendatory endorsement, even though it's a national change. The HO 2000 and 2011 built in that additional coverage. But they all say, to the extent that additional coverage is not sufficient, you don't got ordinance of law. And we never pay for loss in value. And in Haverhill, somebody had a 5-story building. The top floor had a fire, and the zoning had changed in that part of Haverhill, and they could not put the top floor back on. So, that wouldn't be a homeowner's policy, but it's still, is it the insurance company's fault that you can't rebuild that top floor? No. Talk to the people that you voted for who changed the zoning on it. So commercial lines and personal lines both say, and people with decks and older buildings, streets have gotten wider over time, not in Boston, but in the rest of the real world. Okay? And could, your deck be there, but now since they reclaimed so much of the road, they're pretty much, you can drop, something off your deck and hit somebody on the head as they're walking underneath your deck, because that's where the sidewalk is now. That could very well happen. And you might find if you have a loss to your deck that there's zoning ordinance, you can't rebuild it. Well, will that devalue your home? I guess so, but is that our fault? So if you can't rebuild something the way, it was, that's not our fault. So loss in value, and you could have a loss in value. A house with a deck is, to me, worth more than a house without a deck. But, so we just put that in. On page 79, the amendatory endorsement for the 91 and the HO 2000 and 2011 gave us a new additional coverage, or gave you newer 91, but gave you the same old additional coverage in 2000 and 2011. It gave, additional coverages to me in personal lines or commercial lines are sales tools. Now, replacement cost, like, kind, and quality. What you had is what you get. If you need something else to make the building inspector happy, that's not replacement cost. That's ordinance of law issue, not our fault. We'll give you some. We didn't put any in the 91. We added it by endorsement. We built it into the 2000. We built it into 2011. And if you need more, that's a sales opportunity for the agent. But we're not arguing about it anymore. And a lot of times that's what an additional coverage is for. We've litigated it, and we're not wasting any of our money anymore, so we built a little bit in, and there could be a separate policy or an endorsement to buy more, and if you don't have it, it's not the insurance company's fault. Unless they're a direct writer, and then it's their fault, or not. But since we're independent agents, it's our fault if you don't have enough coverage. That's the way I look at life. And so this is a sales tool. And it pretty much gives you coverage for, we give you 10% of coverage A, and it is additional. It's in addition to. So coverage A on the deck page is $100,000. That's rebuilding as was. If you have code issues to rebuild, then we'll give you an extra 10% or $10,000 of the $100,000. It is in addition to. So if you need to upgrade that part of the covered building, fine, we'll do that. Their electrical box got zapped, and it was 100 amp. And now if you go to rebuild a house, you can't have 100 amp. We will now give you money to upgrade that to whatever, is it 200 amp now, or is it even more than that? I don't know. So we'll do that. Replacement cost says we replace 100 amp. Well, you can't occupy your house at 100 amp now. You got grandfather, but so we'll do that. And then it also says you could have a loss where we make you tear down the undamaged portion. That's a loss in value. And the insurance said, no, I got coverage A enough to do that. No. Replacement cost said that part of the building damaged. If it ain't broke, we don't care. That's where ordinance of law comes into play. So the demolition and reconstruction of the undamaged part of the building. So you have to pay to tear it down, and the value of it is an ordinance of law issue. And then upgrading undamaged value. When you go to redo it, if it ain't broke, we would put back the way it was, but we'll upgrade it. So that electric box, it really did get zapped by lightning. Lightning's covered peril, life is good. 100 amp, can't have that. We'll, it was damaged. We'll replace it at 200 amp. And then the building inspector came out and said, well, look at this. Look at the wiring in this house. It's old and not to code. And you can't have this kind of wiring hooked up to 200 amp. So guess what you're going to have to do? Rewire the house. Oh, the wiring wasn't damaged, but ordinance of law coverage will allow you to upgrade undamaged property. So this little, replace a 100 amp box went from 100 to 2,000 to 22,000. Do you have enough coverage? Well, you get 10% of coverage A. If that ain't enough, you need to buy more. And then we just reinforce, we don't do loss in value, and we don't do pollution. Not in your book. Your homeowner's policy unendorsed, you have a fire to that portion of your house. That's what coverage A does. Cover the damaged portion by fire. But what if you have to upgrade the damaged portion? That's ordinance of law. What if you have to tear down this portion? That's ordinance of law. And what if you have to, when you're rebuilding, upgrade the undamaged portion? That's ordinance of law. So we give you, number one would be upgrading the portion that was actually damaged. Number two would be the undamaged value plus the demolition of it. Oops, my mistake. I didn't see it, and I did it twice. And then upgrade undamaged portion. So we'll do everything you need, but we only give you a tool to buy more. I think 100% would be sufficient. Johnny Cantalupa thinks 50% is enough. It depends, It depends on how much it costs. I know I need more than 10%, and ISO has you buy it in 25% increments. Not enough. Can buy more. Now the ISO rates, which my company does not use. And I always thought if they're not going to use ISO rates, they were cheaper. I have we're living in an old house now, built in 1929. Yeah, And so I wanted ordinance of law at 100%. You want to know how much that cost? Oh my God! It's going to be $1,000 for that endorsement. I said, oh, be still my heart. So I went down to 50% only because I'm a cheap Yankee. And it was still a $500 endorsement. I said, wow, yeehaw. So, but my husband thinks with him doing the work too, that will be sufficient. I can only hope. I can only hope that nothing happens. And in 2.5 years when we sell that house, we'll be done with it. And I'll buy a slightly newer used house. I don't know. So, It's nice ISO has suggestions, but I do believe we need more. And then if you have setback clauses and stuff like that, you all sell ordinance of law coverage? How much? At least 50%? 50% means of the coverage A limit. So if your coverage A limit is 500,000, you could have 250,000. If you have 100%, you could have 500,000. Is that overkill? I don't know. If half your house is damaged, you might have to tear down the whole thing. Undamaged value is ordinance of law, and the cost to get it down is ordinance of law. And then to rebuild the code, is that cheaper or more expensive? I don't know. If it's more expensive, then maybe you need at least 75% of ordinance law. I don't know. We'll just pray you don't have a loss and don't ever need it, and it's just one of those things you pay for. That's what insurance is, something you pay for and hope you never need to use. But because you bought it, if you buy it correctly, if that unfortunate situation happens, then I will use every dime I paid for all these years for sure. So nothing is ever worth having until you have a loss. And debris removal, that's a problem too on page 82. Do you have enough? I don't know. If you have a piddly little loss, yeah. If you have a big loss, maybe not. Now, when you have a total loss, is the property totally gone? No. There's still a lot left, but it's still a total loss. And people think they take the dustpan and broom and a little garbage bag and they're good to go. That's not necessarily true. And how do we pay? You know, we don't mention it under coverage A. If you look at coverage A, it just says the dwelling. If you look at coverage B, the structure. Debris removal isn't really discussed in coverage A, coverage B, or coverage C, so we put it here. And we named it and claimed it. And if you look at coverage A, it just says the dwelling. We're paying for the dwelling. You have to remove the debris of that dwelling. Well, it's not encompassed in the definition of dwelling. This is where we talk about it. And being the nice guys that we are, we will let you use the entire limit of insurance to pay for the loss and the removal of the debris. And if your loss is not horrific, that should be enough, correct? It's when the loss gets really bad and you need the whole coverage A limit to pay the damage to, then you have no limit left to remove the debris. And so being the nice guys that we are, we give you a whopping extra 5%. Is that enough? I can only hope. Because there is no endorsement to buy more. And that's actually a good thing. Because if there was an endorsement to buy more, your insured would ask, how much do I need? And I'd say, I have no clue. A few years ago, I talked to a bunch of wrecking companies to try to get a formula, because we like formulas in insurance to tell me how much I need. And it was always, it depends. How much is left? Where is the house located? Where is the landfill? You know, how close together are the houses? You know, how, blah, blah, blah. And it made sense. So we're better off. The commercial property policy has an endorsement. Then you're going to look at me. How much do I need? I don't know. Talk to a wrecking company. The only way you can get more debris removal out of the homeowner's policy is what? Buying more coverage A, more coverage B, and more coverage C. Do some of your companies in their valuation process put a loading in for debris removal and inflate the cost of the house, which aggravates you and the insured to no end? But that's the only way to do it. So at least they're trying. They might really not be trying to cheat me. They really might be trying to give me more money if that horrific loss happens to me. I want a tornado to blow my house away onto your house. Then it's no longer on my property. It's not my problem. It's your problem. Yay. I want it to blow it 5 miles away. Nobody knows whose pieces those are. Yay. And it's just going to implode and I'll sit there and, and then I'm going to be making runs to the dump. And it's going to cost money. So, there's no way to buy more. I hope it works for us. It is what it is. And if a company puts a loading in, I can't, it's difficult to argue with it. Because it's the only way you can buy it. I don't know. Oop, wrong button. Okay. So they got their house. They've shacked up for a while. I guess they decided it's going to last. They decided to get married. Yay. Fall is a nice time for weddings. But Irene had their 25th wedding anniversary on October 17th. Who knew it was going to last that long? I'll tell you. 24 years ago, I did not think it was going to still be around now. Ask my husband, should he show up. But he is a saint and suffered with me. So it's been good for the last 23 years. Next year will be good for the last 24 years. So every year, the first 2 years were shaky. I take full responsibility. Can you imagine living with me? I mean, now really. I can't imagine living with me, so hey. Hotels, like landlords, are a pain in the neck. And wedding venues are a pain in the neck. My stepdaughter got married at Castle in the Clouds. Ever been to Castle in the Clouds? It's a pretty place. It is pretty remote, I'll tell you. I felt we were having a destination wedding and it wasn't warm. Well, actually, that's not true. It was in July, but you know, there's no beach per se. And do they want certificates of insurance? They can. Do they want to be additional insured? And do they want a guarantee of liquor liability? They want a lot of guarantees. So, what can we do? And then Munchkin says, what's this host liquor stuff they're talking about? They're selling it. Don't they have liquor liability? Yeah, they do. They want to make sure you have some too. How much liquor liability do you need? I don't know. How bad is the situation that happens? So, can I do that? Well, it depends. What homeowners policy do you have? It depends. Will the homeowners policy cover the damage to the venue? I was reading personal liability. It says I got property damage liability. Well, did you know that Castle in the Clouds is a historic site? Your coverage limit's $500,000. Even if it's $1 million, that's not enough. So you might want to think about that. And it probably won't pay out in many situations anyways. And then wedding gifts. You know, I was reading, I get like 50 different emails, insurance publications, credible sources, as the saying goes. And there was a wedding claim where, you know, the bride, you know, it's at the end of the reception, people had drank. And a van, white van pulls up and they start to load the wedding gifts. And, you know, when you see somebody, you know, they looked official enough and loading wedding gifts. Then when the bride and groom got back from their honeymoon, they asked their parents where the wedding gifts were. And the parents said, what do you mean? Don't you know where the wedding gifts are? No. That van had nothing to do with the bride, the groom's parents. I mean, they were just people that had read the newspapers or knew that this venue, probably hacked in, who knows, was having an upper end wedding reception and decided to go grab the gifts. Could that happen? Absolutely, it did for them. So now you want to watch out about these white vans and people in official looking whatevers and ask, did you ask for the gifts to go? And then, can bad things happen and your wedding doesn't happen? I mean, last year, Hurricane Irma kind of screwed up a few people's weddings. Northeasters can screw up people's weddings. Down in Lakeview, Massachusetts, 495. Lakeville. The wedding venue burned down. You know, somebody was having a wedding. They went outside to take pictures. Somebody was having a quick cigarette, threw the butt onto mulch. Flammable mulch, very flammable mulch, and burned the venue down. At least they got married. Well, what if you're at tomorrow's wedding? And you go there and there's no there to go to. That would be catastrophic. So does your homeowner's policy care about that? Heck no. We don't care about a lot of these things. So, page 86. If people get injured at the wedding and sue you, because Castle in the Clouds is historic. Ever been into an old house? Stairs are quite steep in older houses. Short and steep.
1854.
Yeah. You know, and my daughter and her husband, I love him to death, Andy, and he gave me they gave me two wonderful grandchildren, twins. And they wanted that place. It's like, I'm amazed, but whatever. Very, the stairs going up. It's not a castle, that's a lie. It is on a hill. It's not a castle. And actually, you have to go halfway down the hill. That's where the reception area is. And they were having open bar, because that's what millennials do, is have open bars, which actually was not a bad price. This was 2014. It was $25 a person, which I think is cheap. And I knew who was being invited, so I knew I was getting my money's worth out of that. It worked out well. But I worried about drinking and walking down the stairs, never mind driving, just walking down the stairs and not breaking your neck. If people get injured and sue me, it's not at my house. Would my homeowner's policy respond? Sure. I mean, from a liability standpoint, I get coverage where? Actually, universe-wide. Contents is only worldwide. Liability is universe-wide. And we designate certain places as insured locations. And historically, that will be, it's in all of them, it's the last one. Any part of a premises occasionally rented to an insured for other than a business use. Would that be a wedding? Yeah. So I knew it was an insured location. That didn't bother me. And when an insured, legally liable, well, you pick that little decrepit place with the steep stairs that even if you didn't drink, you had to be careful walking down. And so if I, negligent supervision, not helping people get downstairs, if I get sued, will my policy defend me? Yep. And then they have to prove I'm negligent, and if they do, does my policy pay out? Yeah. Because, number one, I'm an insured, and number two, as an extra guarantee, that place is an insured location by definition. It wasn't anything I did other than say yes to picking the place. And then medical payment specifically says it covers injuries to people on a what? Insured location. So 91, 2000, 2011 looks at the venue as if it generates injuries to people as being a place that the homeowner's policy will respond to. Certificate of insurance, what does that mean? Nothing. And we like it that way. It's when we write dumb crut on it that we get ourselves into trouble. And we have a dumb crut law in Massachusetts. I don't know if New Hampshire does or not. I have to look. It's, the less said, the better. Name, rank, and serial number. This is when they want 9,000 words. It's like, guarantee that damage to the venue will be covered. Well, they're not a guarantee at all. Can't do that. But can I say that Bud and Irene have a homeowner's policy with $1 million of liability? Sure I can. Beyond that, I don't want to say anything else. So you probably won't accept it. Will they get a cancellation notice? No. They're a certificate holder, and it says pretty much if the policy gets canceled, we'll cancel the policy the way, it will be canceled. And pretty much certificate holders do not get cancellation notice. If they're an additional insured, they would in the homeowner's policy, but so it's just nice and nebulous. Notice will be delivered in accordance with the policy provisions, which means you ain't getting nothing because you're nothing to this policy. Great. So they're not an insured, and I don't know any homeowners company that has any endorsement to make the wedding venue an insured. Has anybody got a company that's created an endorsement to make this place an insured? And I don't think they should. I really don't. So my homeowner's policy, if they want to be an additional insured, won't work. Can I hold the venue harmless and accept responsibility for injuries that happen to my guest? And will my homeowner's policy have to honor that contractual commitment? Is contractual commitment a form of legal responsibility? Yes. So I look for the language. And we have an exclusion under coverage E in the 91, 2000, and 2011. We don't cover any contract or agreement. But then it says, however, this exclusion does not apply to what kind of contracts? Written. If you've signed your name, then I guess we got a written contract. Okay. That directly relate to the ownership, maintenance, or use of an insured location. Is the wedding venue an insured location? Yeah, great. Or if it wasn't an insured location, where we assume the liability of others prior to the incident. Well, signed the contract in May, had the wedding in July. Did we sign the contract before the wedding happened? So either way. But as always, just like in commercial lines, it says unless what? The incident that gives rise to BI and PD is what? Excluded. So I can accept responsibility for all situations. Is there any policy that covers everything? I have not seen one in the 40 some odd years I've been in insurance. So if somebody comes to my house and falls down my stairs and sues me, would my homeowner's policy respond to that? Yeah. So if you're at an insured location and fall down and break your neck, could my homeowner's policy respond to that and take up the contractual commitment? Yeah. If I run you over with my car, will my homeowner's policy respond to that claim? No, my auto policy would. So to the extent I'm covered, I can assume responsibility. So, yeah. And pretty much, can I guarantee I'm going to return the venue in the same condition I rented it in? I can make that guarantee. Will my homeowner's policy be there with me? No. My homeowner's policy excludes property damage to property. That's real or personal. So we rented the venue, and then we rented the silverware and the linens and the china, which was from a different place. That's property. Rented to, occupied, or used by or in the care of an insured. Complete exclusion unless we damage it by what? Fire, smoke, or explosion. When in doubt, light a match. Yay. I have visions of these tablecloths being yanked off of tables when people get up after they've had a few drinks. And all the china and whatever goes flying off. Then a fight ensues. And the whole place gets demolished. See, I have an insurance brain here, which is deadly, I have to tone it down. Normally that doesn't happen at a wedding, but with mine it would. So, if I damage by other than fire, smoke, or explosion, my homeowner's policy just gives me a little bit of coverage. $500 under the HO 91, $1,000 under the HO 2000. So if somebody drops a red drink or spaghetti or something on a rug, could that be a problem, especially after it's ground in for a while? Could it cost more than $1,000 to replace that rug? Well, does my homeowner's policy care? No. So, got a little problem there. It is what it is. Yeah. And so I give you some examples. Yay. Now, liquor. Somebody drinks too much and falls down the stairs and hurts themselves. When they sue me for negligent supervision, will my homeowner's policy be there for me? Yeah, because there's no exclusion. Alcohol is not mentioned at all in the homeowner's policy. Controlled substances are, but alcohol is not. So if there's no exclusion, we pay. Well, I didn't serve it, yeah, but you didn't watch to make sure that people drank too much. And at the May meeting, 2 months before the actual shindig, it was discussed that they don't do, in this open bar, they don't do shots. I said, hallelujah. That's good. I agree. At the wedding, what happened? They did shots. One poor girl got toasted, passed out in the bathroom. And we found this out because they had the wedding official from the Castle in the Clouds walking around doing stuff, and she went into the bathroom, and there's that girl passed out. So they want to extricate her from the place. It's like, wait a minute. And we woke her up, and she shots, and then we went over and told the bartenders, no more shots. You said no shots. You know, imbibing too much alcohol in a short period of time, not good. But they made her go out and sit on the bus waiting to go home, where she threw up on the bus, which was a different issue altogether. So, but that was the only downside to the whole thing. Nobody got injured. Some people got embarrassed, but not injured. If we got sued, if somebody get injured because they drank and walked down the stairs and hurt themselves, would the homeowner's policy respond? Well, negligent supervision. Vicarious liability for you over-serving her. So, now my homeowner's policy pays. Now, what if it's auto-related? You know, there are no hotels close to Castle in the Clouds. That is a problem. And so you have to stay someplace and go over there. And it's not cheap to stay at the Margate in the summer, just so you know that. I felt like I was in Dominican Republic. I'd rather have been there, but it was not my wedding. Why not? So we rented buses. Did everybody want to take the bus over there? No. Did some people not stay at the Margate? They drove to the wedding and back. I'm thinking, if people drink and drive and get in an accident and injure themselves or others, will I get sued? Probably, because a good lawyer sues who? Everybody. They'll sue Castle in the Clouds. They'll sue the people that held the function. Will my homeowner's policy respond to that? And the HO 91 will, because there's no exclusion. However, newer additions to the homeowner's policy you could have a problem with. The HO 2000 and 2011 still has no liquor exclusion, but it has a motor vehicle liability definition. And what's a motor vehicle? Anything that's self-propelled. So if you're driving something to a wedding, would that be self-propelled? And so the definition of motor vehicle liability, ownership, well, you're driving your own car, but maintenance, occupancy, operation, use, loading or unloading of such self-propelled vehicle by any person is a guest to a wedding, any person. Yes. And then failure to supervise who? That guest. And so if our failure to supervise that guest resulted in an accident, would that be part of this definition? No, and a definition is neither good nor bad. It's what you do with it. And unfortunately, what do we do with it on page 93? We exclude it in the HO 2000 and 2011. It's the absolute first exclusion from personal liability. After we give you the world, we get rid of motor vehicles. And it says, cover G and F, BIPD, medical payments do not apply to motor vehicle liability if it is registered for use on public roads or public property, or should be. So that was the one and only time I have been thankful for Facebook. Because I woke up in the morning and everybody had a good time and no reported injuries. Thank you. I worried about it. I would have worried about it more if I had this policy. I didn't. But anybody write with Fair Plan? You got this language. And then anybody that's on the 2000 or 2011, Norfolk and Denham is on the 2000. Andover Company is on the 2011. Quincy's on the 2011. But some companies like Andover, Norfolk, and Denham have an endorsement that gives back host liquor coverage. But if the company doesn't endorse the policy, then if people drive and cause an accident, and part of the problem is you're allowing them to be overserved, not necessarily overserving them. When you get sued, could the company deny the claim? Yes, they could. And I didn't put this in your book, but you can Google MPIUA versus Berry. That is a host liquor claim by Fair Plan in Massachusetts. And Fair Plan won. So, if you have the HO 2000 or 2011, is there host liquor coverage? It depends on how the company wants to interpret this. And you know how MPIUA interpreted it. And if you call 5 different people at MPIUA, you'll probably get 5 different answers. But if you ask about host liquor, there is a party line. They have all learned the answer to that. No, no, no. And I would guess they're probably right because they already defended the claim. Now, this was a Massachusetts claim. If I have MPIUA, if I have my wedding in New Hampshire, is there coverage? I don't know. They'll have to litigate it in New Hampshire. They don't have to litigate it again in Massachusetts. You've already got precedents. So, every state would have to make a determination of whether host liquor should be removed because of the motor vehicle liability definition and corresponding exclusion. But the 91 doesn't have such a definition. The 91 only excludes motorized land conveyances that I own, that I rent, that I'm operating. If you're driving your car, ain't got nothing to do with the motor vehicle liability exclusion, and no addition talks about liquor. So it's not a liquor issue, it became a motor vehicle issue. So if they have to guarantee host liquor, if you've got the HO 2000 or 2011, I can't guarantee anything. And I wouldn't guarantee it anyways on a certificate of insurance, because nowhere in the HO 91 does it say, yes, you have host liquor coverage. It doesn't say that. I just say you're covered unless you're what? Excluded. And the HO 91, the HO 84, the HO 76 has been known to pay host liquor claims because there is no exclusion. So, can you go back to the mass auto policy? I don't know. Because in Massachusetts, we already said earlier that the owner of the vehicle is responsible, so I don't know if I can get to my auto policy. It's always been a homeowner's claim. I don't know. Who knows? And certainly with the 2016, again, we talk about auto, but historically in Massachusetts, we make the owner of the vehicle responsible. Host liquor comes when they didn't have enough money to pay the claim and then try to find more money, and they come back to me. Will my auto policy respond? I don't know. What about the umbrella? Again, I don't know. How do the exclusions read there? I try to stay away from RLI because I get yelled at on that, but I do know that if you have underlying coverage for host liquor, your RLI policy is there for you, which becomes problematic if you're with MPIUA. So, other than that, your own companies, I don't know. I don't know how it reads. Alrighty. Did everybody do the sign-in sheet for here? Okay. Well, it's late in the day. We're going to do another check-in. So this will be 4, 4, 4, 4. Fourth, there will be another check-in. At least one. Yes, there will be. So, thank you. You didn't have to bring it down, but thank you very much. Oop. Okay, so for you all in video land, downsize your screen, type in your name, and then you'll get a thank you or however that works. I've never done a live stream. I've always been them. And then you need a break because it's in the afternoon. You're all drifting on me, but that's fine. See you in 10 or so.